June 1, start of hurricane season. Hope you're all doing well, or okay, as best you can. Hello, Analog Synth Player and Alicia DeMoss and Sandra and D. Moore and Andrew and Agnes and Christy, Rage Against the Machine. Hello, everybody. And Oracle 11, Donna Davidson, Angelos, hello. Kim Blanchard, Michael Mossberg, Cecilia Amarati, hello. Okay. I agree, and the same thing is happening here, Cecilia. Not too many people feel well. Louisiana Skywatch, Brenda Rose, Sheepdog Patriot and Julie. And if I've missed anyone, I do. Hello, Patricia White. Let's just check out radar. How you doing, Louisiana Skywatch? I saw your video where you were playing your alert, your weather alert for flash flooding. I hope things are okay where you are in Louisiana. And here we go again. The igniting of supercells. I wish I could play captures for you, because radar has been pretty active, to say the least. Supercharging the atmosphere, priming it for severe weather. So I hope you guys in West Texas are doing okay, Louisiana, and it's heading on over into Mississippi. Got quite a bit of rain down here in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. You got a line, a real defined line of precipitation going through Illinois. Isn't that interesting? Woof! Mother Nature must be using a ruler. And these are concerning up here in Nebraska and Kansas and Colorado. Okay. Looks like you've got more hail for northeast Colorado. You had quite a bit of hail that pummeled houses and pummeled cars in recent days, and it looks like you're getting more. Yeah, they don't stop. But hey, it's the start of a whole new season. What are they going to be bringing on? Well, this dries up very quickly, huh? Evaporation of weather front. Look at all of these. As far as I'm concerned, nanobots. Lines of little blips of precipitation? Really? No. Not at all. So, I want to start by thanking Donna D., Jeffrey P., and Sandra G. for your donations. I really very, very much appreciate it. And I do want to say that Sherry has been making regular payments. So if anybody is causing the drama to continue, I would really appreciate you not doing that. Okay? We don't need any more drama. There's an awful lot of people, myself included, going through a tremendous amount, and we don't need any of this personal high school drama that continues. It's unfortunate. I don't like it, upsets me greatly. So I really wish that people would just hold back. Yeah. But thank you, Donna and Jeffrey and Sandra. Much, much appreciated. I have to say, with all of my troubles with subscribers over the years, it's nice to see somebody living up to their word. Yes. So, that is, even the Texas subscriber who sent me back the security, which, for the month that I paid for the, rent, that was hers, that was a deal that we made. But security is a whole other thing, and she promptly returned it. So, yes, it's unfortunate, but we do need to make, need to highlight the good examples that we have. And when people do what is wrong, and then they try to rectify it, that's what we're looking for, right? Yes. So, all right. No more drama. I can't stand it. And I've had way too much of the drama queens in the cyber world. And, they lie, they exaggerate, they tell different stories of what has happened, and that is not okay. That is really not okay. So let's just get to weather, shall we? Yes. Yes. Flooding devastates Germany.
Flooding devastated Germany and Italy as heavy rainfall ravaged the region. Around 1,300 people were advised overnight to leave their homes due to the high risk of flooding in the German Lake Constance district. Large parts of Baden-Württemberg and Bavaria are also expected to be hit particularly hard this weekend. In Italy, local media report that 3 young people have been missing since early Friday afternoon due to flooding in the northeast of the country. They had called for help as they were on a small island and the water was rising fast due to torrential rain. When rescuers arrived, they could not find them. A search is underway.
So this Germany. Okay, places are getting hit over and over and over again. I've shown you Germany, I've shown you Italy, I've shown you so many different areas of Europe getting flooded. Bavaria, Germany, rivers raging, evacuations, millions in damages. Bavaria flooding.
Heavy continuous rain has led to dramatic flood situations in parts of southern Germany.
Ja, wir sind hier in Babenhausen zwischen Ulm und Memmingen. Hier ist wirklich der ganze Ort unter Wasser, wirklich dramatisch.
Yep, too much rain. Storm drains couldn't handle it. This is happening all over the world.
Zwischen Ulm und Memmingen, hier ist wirklich der ganze Ort unter Wasser. Wirklich dramatische Szenen, die uns hier zeigen.
To evacuate their homes on Friday evening and overnight into 1,300 people were evacuated as a precaution as the Schussen River threatened to burst its banks. To public transport. Pforzheim and Freiburg. In addition to the evacuations, there were also numerous road closures and disruptions to public transport. The Günzburg district even declared a state of emergency on Friday evening. The severe weather has already caused millions of euros in damages. Basements have been flooded and roads and railway tracks damaged. The cause of the flooding is the heavy rainfall of the past few days. Some regions received up to 200 liters of rain per square meter within 48 hours. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get the latest news about natural disasters around the world.
And I have recommended some of these weather destruction videos. This is Undersphere and keeps up with an awful lot of the flooding going on all over the world. And Brenda Rose, I've been feeling uneasy, but I can point to why. A whole lot of the drama that I don't want to be a part of, that I remove myself from, and it all comes back. And I just can't stand that. But I feel I'm having a lot of physical symptoms that I've never had so consistently. I've had a couple of heart palpitations here as well, Sandra. And just, I've noticed in the chat that a couple of people asked about stomach issues or GI issues. And yes, that is very new for me to have consistently, day after day after day. My stomach is not okay. If I eat anything, it doesn't matter what I eat, it doesn't settle very well in my stomach. And this is nothing I've ever experienced. And I am not liking it. Not liking it at all. So for those who are experiencing stomach issues, I don't know, I can speculate and I think I know, but I think it's more my reacting physically to something that is not physical. And that's all I want to say. And another person, I saw a comment, I can't remember who it was from, but that he was asking if anybody noticed that butter doesn't melt the way it used to, that there's something up with butter. Yeah, I certainly do. Something is up with butter. Anybody else experiencing that? And you, Brenda Rose, your face and head gets waves. Yes, it makes sense. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have a smart meter, if you have... Look, the electromagnetic frequency saturation is affecting all of us in a very detrimental way. So, but is it the stomach issues that are like every day? That's what I'm not fully understanding. Yeah. Bread doesn't mold. Yeah. That was you talking about the butter rage, okay. Yeah. So, you know, they had full control over the food supply decades ago, and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse. Doesn't melt. I bought a different kind of butter. The only butter that I thought was halfway decent, Tillamook or something like that. And I noticed it wasn't all that much better. Every day for 2 months. Yeah. It's so draining. I've been very lucky throughout my life with my physical health, though medications pretty much destroyed it, but still even, you know, feeling very exhausted and feeling a whole lot of different kinds of pains. Yes, you have diagnoses of chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and yada, yada, yada. But this kind of symptom is not what I'm used to. I hardly ever get sick, like with colds or flu. Well, there was two bars of butter, and it might have been that Ireland one that you're talking about, Cecilia, and it was close to $7. Yeah. So, nothing tastes the same anymore, and I can't tell if it's my taste buds or the food. But anyway, here we go. Somalia. Somali town. Flooded. Phew. Just doing it to everyone. Everyone. Over 6,000 people rescued after flash floods in India.
अजय उसी के अंदर हाँ गुड वेरी गुड आराम से
All over. Safety concerns at North Texas lakes after heavy rain and flooding, and the rivers and the lakes, well, they seem to be rising at a rather exponential speed.
Right now, due to high water and the storm damage, that includes the Tower Bay boat ramps. City leaders tell us they don't know when everything will reopen. Meanwhile, Grapevine Lake clocking in at more than 14 feet above normal. The city is warning anyone planning to visit to use extreme caution. All of the boat ramps are closed except one Ferris branch. And even if you are able to launch a watercraft, Lake Patrol says unseen dangers lurk beneath the surface. So just imagine how much ground cover that water is covering up now, because we've had just so much rain, Brittany.
So shut down the lakes because you have to keep everyone safe. This is the hail. This is a Denver airport, and look at the amount of cars.
It was a bad night to be a car near the airport. Our Lauren Scafidi found a whole bunch of them with anything from small dents to totally busted out windows. She joins us live this afternoon from the RTD Park and Ride on 61st and Pena. Oh, Lauren, yikes.
Yeah, there's plenty to see here just on this block. We'll start right here. I mean, there are just car parts littered all over the middle of the street. We'll get those out of the way, but a lot of the cars here have cracked windshields and some just lost their windows altogether. Take a look. You can see glass, and actually there's even hail still in the back seat as the sun works to melt that in the back seat. Both of these tail lights are out. Looks like those are on the ground, and if I had to guess, this Nissan sign probably goes right here. Really tough scene to come back to after landing at DIA.
There's hail damage all over the roof and the hood. I mean, it's pretty bad.
Hail damage was not on the itinerary when landing near DIA.
We just came to visit some relatives, but I'm from Dallas.
Lucky for Rudy Perez, it's not his car.
No, I rented the car.
He's surrounded by shattered windows, sunroofs, and even car parts in the street. Rudy's rental company sent him a text with a heads up before he got behind the wheel.
It says car got blasted by hail last night and windshield is cracked. Up to you whether you want to take it or not.
But others didn't know what they were walking into.
It's towards the end. Is that green Tacoma?
Miguel Sanchez just got home from Mexico.
Oh,
His car has been at the RTD Park and Ride for 2 weeks
well, it has a windshield.
on 61st and Pena near DIA.
Yeah, but it's pretty. Oh man, that's unfortunate.
He had no idea there was a hailstorm overnight.
When did it happen?
Last night.
Oh, missed it by 1 day.
Sanchez is thankful he'll be able to make it home
No, I think that's all it is.
because a few dents in the plan
The rest seems fine.
won't keep him from what matters most.
Well, but I get to see my wife and my kids, so.
Yeah. I got things on my car from little itty bitty hail. So when you see this hail coming down the size of golf balls, the size of baseballs, you know that there's going to be an awful lot of damage in that area. Not only to cars, but to homes and to businesses and, to farms and ranches and... God. Dallas nonprofit loses thousands of pounds of meat meant to feed homeless during the power outage.
Have taken a toll on North Texans, forcing many to lose hundreds of dollars in food. And that loss is amplified for some nonprofits like Our Calling. The organization lost thousands of pounds of meat that would have fed people without homes. Fox 4's Lori Brown joins us now. Lori.
Clarice, the 50,000 Encore customers without power are now living through their 4th day without power. And while the lights are back on and are calling, the recovery is far from over.
We already work with people experiencing a hard time living on the streets. And so for us, we're working in a hard time trying to care for people living through a hard time.
Wayne Walker, CEO of Our Calling, says they lost thousands of pounds of meat that would have helped to feed people who are hungry.
This is our walk-in freezer where we store pallets of meat, and the water is from everything that's thawed out. And so all that meat is spoiled. A lot of it's had to be thrown away.
The power finally came on Thursday night after 3 full days in the dark.
So this food truck is actually owned by one of our staff members who has a ministry where he uses this on the weekends to help the community in South Dallas. So we brought it in here today with generators powered up so we could cook some of the food that had thawed out.
This is some catfish. So what we did, we have hot dogs for the people that's coming in to eat. We give them hot dogs, 2 hot dogs. They got mac and cheese. They got baked beans.
Our Calling serves 300 to 500.
You know what? Thank God for people like this. Thank God. We need more people like this who actually get out and do things to to help other people. So I'm going to once again shout out to Into Thin Air for capturing so much that other people miss. Very important. I will put the link to the video below. You can click on the link and get to his channel, or just get to the video and hit subscribe. Yeah. Thank you, Into Thin Air.
Hurricane season, the very first day of the Atlantic hurricane season, but we're not talking about that.
In fact, I'll go as far as to say I don't know, and that not to say that there aren't other people out there capturing this. I don't see them. So, but yeah, Into Thin Air is providing a very good service.
That right now. I got something to show you that was sent to me by a few different people, and this is going to blow your mind. It's two separate anomalies going on at the exact same time. They begin together and end together, but they are thousands of miles apart. Wait until you see this. Here, we're going to go to Sunday, May 26th, and we're going to zoom down into the Western Pacific area, north of the Vanuatu Islands, Tonga, Fiji, all these exotic type islands out here, and we're going right to this area here. You're not going to believe what you're about to see here. When you zoom in, this strip of weather that stays here for days turns into numbers. 2024-05. What does this mean? This is crazy. Right off the bat, what this reminds me of is what you see on Google Earth. And what I mean by that is this. I'm just going to pick a random area in Google Earth and drop into Street View, and you're going to see what I mean. They have Google Earth labeled like in the sky and things like that, depending on what the date is. You just kind of look up in this area and you see 2023 Google. So these are like watermarks they put into Google Earth to let you know the year that the image you're looking at was taken. But this is totally different, and you only see this when you zoom way in. You see how it changes from a strip of weather right here into those numbers. Again, 2024-5, and as you move on, it turns into a 6, I believe. Now, again, this is just one anomaly I'm talking about. You can see as you move from the 26th through the 27th and the 28th, this thing stays right there, and you can clearly see it says 2024-5. So I don't know if this is some sort of date that was captured within the data here, and it's a mistake, but as you zoom out again, it looks like just a weather anomaly. And then you go to the 31st, it's there again, and I think this is the one that says 06 over here. Maybe I'm wrong. It could switch on the, there it is right there. So it looks like on the 1st of June, which is the date, it says 0624. So this looks to be some sort of anomaly that's just capturing the date, but what is it doing right here? Why is it just sitting in the middle as a weather system in the Western Pacific Ocean and then slowly switching, eventually disappearing? If we go to the 2nd here, we could see it's not there, but we're not in the 2nd yet. So it might be there in the next 24 hours. We'll keep an eye on this. But as I said, there's two of these anomalies, and I'm going to show you the 2nd right now. We got to go back to Sunday the 26th and take a look at Mexico. We've seen this anomaly for years. This thing pops up on occasion, and it is very, very telling. This thing has made its rounds around the internet many times. I've shared this anomaly. It's been shared with me, but take a look at this. Monday the 27th, you can see it kind of dissipates a little bit, and then you move into Tuesday the 28th, and there it's back. More of these beams coming out of it. This is the Baja region of California and Mexico. We can see this anomaly all through Wednesday, and then I believe it ends right here Thursday the 30th. It's gone, and that's around the same time where we start seeing the change in this anomaly over here closer to Australia. That looks like a strip of weather, but when you zoom in, it's a date. I'm telling you right now, my friends, if these weather models are trying to gain any sort of trust in us, this stuff needs to stop. I don't know if they're doing this on purpose for us to find these things and then to make fun of us later on. I don't really care. Anytime I see something like this or it's sent to me, I'm going to talk about it, and I need some explanations for this because I'm not seeing this anywhere else on the map, even though it's a large area to search. I have not seen anything like this yet. My actual opinion on this is it's some sort of date captured. Obviously, it moves with the month of June. As you go into Saturday the 1st, it actually changes to a 6, so we got the month and the year. But again, why is this right here? What is going on? That is something I'm going to keep looking into, my friends. Keep sending me this amazing stuff because I love posting, I love sharing it with you, and I love seeing what you guys think about it. And also the fact that we had both of these going on at the same time. I can't say they're related right now. This is just a very nutshell type video I'm doing, but we can see this clear as day. And it's not the only one. There is a very, very big one that's here in Cuba as well. Sometimes that pops up and has a heavy influence on the weather in Florida. I have snapshots of this one actually, and some big ones we've seen actually come off the state of Florida. So, oh, and just a heads up, for those of you that want to go check out the Antarctic anomaly, it's still there for May the 25th, going into about 5 p.m. that same day, and then disappears on the 8th. So they have not yet removed all of these anomalies that popped up over time. We have not seen one since they claim that they're removing the data, but I'm sure we're going to find it somewhere else. All right, my friend.
Wow. For all of my, and I haven't, not in the last year, maybe year and a half. I really just work off of one radar site and, a few others, but I would go through so many different sites, and highlighting in videos the anomalies. And I haven't done it, but I don't know anyone else who's doing it. And these anomalies are not anomalies. We know what they're about. So, as he said, he doesn't know if they're doing this just to, so all of the conspiracy theorists on YouTube will be posting videos and then they make fools of us? No. This absolutely has a tremendous impact on the weather in Texas. Right here. Weather in Texas.
On the internet many times.
So, yeah, we're I'm going to say it again. I am worried this year for the hurricanes. Numbers behind the narrative. The numbers behind the narrative? Oh, what climate science actually says? Okay, I'm going to read some of this. It's Zero Hedge. I can't post to it. But January 2023, Al Gore provided a graphic depiction during a World Economic Forum summit, informing attendees that greenhouse gas emissions are now trapping as much extra heat as would be released by 600,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every single day on the Earth. Now, for the willfully ignorant, for those who just don't know that there are a whole lot, for those who are putting out the climate science, those who actually get funded, the consensus of scientists, well, there's only a consensus when you censor all of the other scientists who are saying, wait a second, this ain't right. Okay, we know that. But for all of the people who are still so programmed by mainstream media, by the liars, by the psychopaths and the narcissists, and I could imagine they get freaked out about this. 600,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every single day. Wow! You don't think Al Gore might be leading for his spot number one? Liar, spewing hyperbole, maybe? Yeah, but he goes on. That's what's boiling the oceans, creating these atmospheric rivers and the rain bombs and sucking the moisture out of the land and creating the droughts and the melting the ice and raising the sea level and causing these waves of climate refugees. United Nations Secretary General Guterres echoed pretty much the same remarks at the United Nations Environment Assembly in February of this year, warning our planet is on the brink. Ecosystems are collapsing, our climate is imploding, and humanity is to blame. Speak for yourself, Guterres. You are absolutely to blame. So is Al Gore. So are an awful lot of corporations, but so are the weather terrorists. Despite ubiquitous reports that there is an overwhelming consensus among scientists in support of this narrative, many scientists like John Clauser, 2022 Nobel Prize recipient in physics, yeah, he's probably a real conspiracy theorist and a nut job, right? See it differently. Clauser stated in 2023, what the hell is this I'm looking at? Okay. In 2023, that the popular narrative about climate change reflects a dangerous corruption of science that threatens the world's economy and the well-being of billions of people. Misguided climate science has metastasized into massive shock journalistic pseudoscience. In my opinion, there is no real climate crisis. Now, anyone who is in their right mind, of sound mind, if they believe the narrative, but they heard that statement from John Clauser, they would look into it. But it's not just John, it's an awful lot. In fact, the number of those in the field of climatology, those in the field that can actually speak to this issue, are 100 times the scientists of the IPCC. Most often cited sources of climate information is the Intergovernmental Panel, not a scientific panel, a governmental panel on climate change, a collection of scientists and government appointees that, according to its website, is dedicated to assessing the science on climate change. The United Nations and the World Meteorological Organization established the IPCC in 1988. The IPCC is both a scientific and a political body. It doesn't conduct its own research, but rather assembles teams of hundreds of scientists and working groups that collect reports from scientific journals regarding climate change, its effects, and what should be done about it. Information on which these assessment reports is based often has a bias from the start. Critics say because research grants typically fund studies that support the prevailing narrative on climate change, and because scientific journals often avoid publishing studies that suggest climate change is not dire. Look to the money. Any literature that supports alarmism is promoted, and any that does not is rejected. William Happer, Professor Emeritus in Physics at Princeton University. Smart guy. According to Happer, the source of much of today's climate data comes from centers whose generous funding would cease if climate hysteria were to abate. Richard Lindzen, Emeritus Professor of Meteorology at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, who served as one of the scientists on Working Group 1 in the past, said, the IPCC itself is only studying anthropogenic, man-made climate change. It does not do anything regarding natural climate change. It doesn't do any study of anything but man causing it. So it doesn't look at anything natural. But this has been going on since the creation of the IPCC. So we did have natural forces out there, which they pretty much have abolished now, as far as I'm concerned. So he went on to say, and that's a severe technical shortcoming because you can't do things like attribution unless you know what natural variability is. But you also cannot do things like attribution with geoengineering going on and weather modification going on. But that's not what you hear from an awful lot of the scientists who say that climate change is not dire. Some do, but a whole lot don't. So, yeah, I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Historic climate action. We've got to take historic climate action, and it's based on a lie. Doesn't everybody, especially in Western nations, understand that their government officials lie to them? At this point, don't they get that? U.S. drivers overwhelmingly prefer gasoline cars to EVs. But you're going to be forced. You'll be forced if you're allowed to drive. 21% of consumers prefer an EV. That means 79% either go with standard gas-powered vehicles or hybrids. I wouldn't even go with a hybrid. Yeah, I mean, they're forcing all of this upon us. How can they do that? Well, when a whole lot of people don't stand up, they can do anything. Hello, Elizabeth Rivard. Thank you. Much thanks. Shout out to the moderator. So, another friggin' solar panel corruption story. Going after the elderly. A whole lot of these solar companies are scamming the elderly. How are they getting away with this? Well, let's just say the criminals have run amok.
And getting signed up for solar.
An insider is coming forward after a Call Curtis investigation. We uncovered people here and across the country getting billed tens of thousands of dollars for solar panels they say they didn't want or get.
Tonight, Curtis Ming goes one-on-one with a former worker.
See the solar panels on the roof of this rundown Oroville home? A salesperson somehow got the 91-year-old woman who lived here to finance the $35,000 project she'd pay off when she turned 114. Phyllis Simmons died months after installation.
Why is a 91-year-old woman that has a roof that's in poor condition getting signed up for solar?
It's a surprising question coming from him, Daniel Assard, because he is the salesman listed on the 2019 contract for these Freedom Forever solar panels.
Did you ever meet Ms. Simmons?
I have never met Simmons a day in my life.
Did you sell Ms. Simmons solar panels?
No. I learned about Ms. Simmons when I got the complaint.
Years after he says he left a company called Apricot Solar, the estate of Phyllis Simmons served him with a lawsuit, accusing him of elder financial abuse. Also named in the suit, the company that did business as Apricot Solar and the solar panel company Freedom Forever.
How did your name end up on this 91-year-old's contract?
My name was forged by another sales representative at the direction of the CEO of the company.
Hey there, Dave Bengal, founder and CEO of Apricot Solar.
Lessard claims in court-filed declarations that the CEO of Apricot Solar, seen here in a corporate video, asked for his login credentials to the company's sales portal to help out another salesperson.
As somebody who was just trying to be a team player and just do what my boss asked me, I reluctantly agreed, having no idea the consequences of what he was asking me to do.
Lessard also says he now realizes other Apricot Solar workers not licensed to sell solar were using his login credentials to DocuSign his name to contracts.
So the CEO of the company instructed this other salesperson to use your login for this contract because he was not licensed.
Yes.
In these court documents, two former employees back his claim. The former Apricot vice president saying during my tenure, it was prevalent for Dave Bengal, the CEO, to endorse forgery in an attempt to boost sales.
That's my roof.
I showed Daniel Lassard the story of Sacramento's Andrea Bacretta, who insists she never even signed a contract with a different Apricot Solar representative. Look up at her roof. Freedom Forever solar panels were never installed. Yet more than a year later, she learned of a lien on her home and a loan for more than $11,000.
I thought that's a mistake because I knew I didn't sign anything.
Bacretta admits giving that salesperson her social security number because he said he needed it for an estimate and a credit check.
If you're providing your social security number, you need to understand that you are filling out a loan application.
And says with those personal details, a salesperson can electronically sign your name.
Now that person can act as you. That person has his iPad probably facing towards him. He could be tap, tap, tap to increase his sales numbers.
We analyzed the DocuSign audit trail in her case. It shows she viewed and signed a 29-page loan agreement in 6 different spots over a span of 27 seconds.
I hope that the salesperson didn't sign it himself and just tap.
Freedom Forever agreed to cancel Andrea's contract last month. That lien terminated. The contractors board revoked Daniel Lassard of his license to sell solar panels. He says he didn't fight it because he was already out of the industry. As for that lawsuit against him,
I have represented myself in this civil litigation. I've had no choice. I could not afford an attorney.
The estate of Phyllis Simmons has now dropped Lassard from their lawsuit, but is pressing forward against Apricot Solar and Freedom Forever. Lassard maintains he did nothing wrong.
I didn't get paid by any of this. I had no reason to do any of this. I was entirely used as a scapegoat for fraud to make this company more profitable.
Oh boy, man, we've got so many of these people. What the hell? It's so something. It's just not right, you know. A whole lot of Americans just ain't right. So I'm gonna play these videos. It's very interesting. Dave Smith burns Chris Cuomo to the ground in epic COVID debate. All right. Yeah. I wish that people would get that all of these people lie through their teeth. What is wrong with people? What is wrong with people that they can't get that mainstream media reporters will say whatever propaganda they are handed and then change the tune when it suits them. I don't care how much this guy starts to come clean with. As far as I'm concerned, the guy has no integrity and he's just yet another lying sack of shit.
So I will say, number one, I came with a gift for Chris. This is, and I really hope you read this, this is the definitive book on the COVID regime. It's called Diary of a Psychosis, How Public Health Disgraced Themselves During the COVID Mania. It's written by Tom Woods, and of course the foreword is by the great Jay Bhattacharya, who, if you guys don't know, absolutely brilliant doctor over at Stanford. Here you go, this is for you. Thank you. Please read it, it's excellent. I know you like following the science, and there's a whole lot of science in that book.
He doesn't seem appreciative of the gift, right? All of these people need to be held to account.
But listen, you told me I should apologize. So what do you think I should apologize for? And then I'll tell you what I think you should apologize for.
Well, I know what you think I should apologize for. Obviously, there was so much talk that they don't want you to take ivermectin. Ivermectin is the way to go. Take it. Joe Rogan got better from ivermectin. And by the way, I don't like what people did to Joe Rogan about ivermectin. I don't like it.
You did it.
No.
Yes, you did.
Find the clips.
Dude, find the clips. You shamed Joe Rogan.
Find the
you
clips.
said he's taking horse dewormer. You and Don Lemon were chuckling at each other about it.
No,
I'll go find
first
the
of all,
clip.
you just saw the clips.
I watched
I'm
it.
not chuckling. I'm listening to Don. But
No. The
here's
clip
point.
I'm talking about wasn't on there, and
Here's-
it's absolutely
look, we
there.
were
Here, do we have it? Hold on, let's play the clip.
Injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to. Oh my God. What person? You know, you talk about cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer. Really?
They are shaming themselves.
That's
No
what
one
it
has
is.
to shame them. They're shaming themselves.
So you're taking a dewormer right now, Chris. Chris, you can't apologize for that. You weren't being clear that it was this, and you know that, dude. You're being so dishonest right now, man.
I'm not
You
being
were talking
dishonest.
about ivermectin, the drug. You were not talking about this version of ivermectin. Come on,
I
man.
was responding to a situation where we were told that this is what people were searching out to take, and nobody knew what it was going to do to them. Look, I'm taking the drug right now. Obviously, I don't think it's all poison. I stopped calling it the horse drug when, and you can not like it, CNN's chief medical officer, who is Sanjay Gupta, said to me, you shouldn't just call it a horse dewormer. There's a whole legitimate aspect of the drug. I wouldn't use it for COVID-19, but it's not just a veterinary grade. So I stopped calling it that.
So, okay.
And then it went away.
By the way, I don't know if you guys saw this. One of the best moments during the pandemic was when Dr. Gupta, who was just mentioned, went on Joe Rogan's podcast. For all the days of CNN demonizing Joe Rogan, they send their top doctor out there onto his show, and he goes, why is everyone on your network saying I'm taking horse dewormer? Ivermectin's not. And Dr. Gupta looked down at his lap and went, yeah, no, they shouldn't be saying that. Kind of amazing to watch you admit so many of the things that you admitted on the podcast with Pat, but at the same time, you laughed off the idea of an apology.
Yeah.
Your first thing you said was apology. No way. There's no way. And then you proceeded to go on to confirm what all of us had known for so long, but you, sir, were smearing people like us for having this view. You were, at the time when the COVID insanity struck, you were the #1 show at CNN. A time when the nation was going through a major crisis and totalitarianism swept throughout all 50 states. Actually, -1, I think South Dakota never had lockdowns. 49 out of the 50 states went totalitarian.
They didn't have lockdowns, but they did have a dog get killed at 13 months. I think that's what happened in South Dakota. So we got to get the facts. We'll keep
It was
going.
something I think Kim Jong-un was involved.
Right,
I'm not
right.
sure about the details.
Right.
But during this moment, we really needed people, especially people who had a big platform. You were the #1 show at CNN, which is huge, almost as big as this show. And and it seems to me that you, rather than doing what your job should have been at the time, which was to be skeptical of power and to shine a light against the propaganda, it seems like you ate up every single piece of propaganda, repeated all of it without any thought to whether it was true or not, and then smeared millions of Americans, like myself, who were opposed to this stuff. So that's where my beef is.
Chris, I understand your beef. Why would I not apologize? An apology is when you say something that you shouldn't have said, that was wrong to say, that you said for bad reason, or you're trying to hurt. None of those apply. I hear your understanding of the pandemic. I don't agree. I lived it closer than you in many ways. Closer than any of you, probably, in many ways. And there were absolutely mistakes made. The idea that it was a totalitarian regime, that's hyperbole.
Oh, really? Hyperbole? And you don't have to apologize? You're a mainstream media reporter, and you are reporting false information and making fun of people who are taking particular medicines, to ensure their health, and you don't have to apologize? I don't care. If you receive the propaganda, and he's not an investigative journalist, he's just a repeater. Forget about reporter. He just repeats whatever is on the page given to him from government. He's a government propagandist, and he doesn't have to apologize. He doesn't have to apologize. Wow, man. Well, let's see about that totalitarian hyperbole.
I hear your understanding of the pandemic. I don't agree. I lived it closer than you in many ways. Closer than any of you, probably, in many ways. And there were absolutely mistakes made. The idea that it was a totalitarian regime, that's hyperbole.
All right, can I respond? Because there was a lot there, so I want to try to respond to as much of it as I can.
I didn't mean to flood the zone. We can take it one by one.
We can go one by one. Okay, first of all, when I described the lockdowns that swept this nation in 2020 as totalitarian, just to be clear, I'm not being hyperbolic. When you're waking up every morning to watch your TV, to find out from your governor what you're allowed to do today, including am I allowed to go to work? Am I allowed to have a funeral for my father? Am I allowed to see my family? Am I allowed to step outside without a cover on my face? There is one word and one word only for that, and that is totalitarianism. I'm sorry. That's not slightly hyperbolic.
And he's quite right. Quite right.
Like that's the only place he was on during
here's
COVID.
one person in cable news who did some real journalism, okay? Tucker Carlson he got Governor Murphy from New Jersey on his show. Yeah. And he asked him one simple question that was never asked of any of the other lockdown governors. And you know what the question was? He had just shut down, it was either a church or a synagogue, I can't remember. And he goes, oh, wait a minute, so you just shut down this temple and arrested people for worshiping. Where do you get the authority to do that? Because I've read the First Amendment, and it's pretty clear that you have the freedom of religion, and so where do you get the authority to shut that down? And you know what Governor Murphy said? He said, well, I'm not thinking about the Constitution. That's above my pay grade. So let me, just to make this clear,
a stupid
okay?
Answer.
Yeah, it sure is, but you know what? Your brother and none of the rest had a better one. They just never got asked that question. So here's
it has nothing to do with the First Amendment.
Yeah, of course it does, Chris. Here's the bottom line. There's no clause in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights that says, unless there's a virus that we don't know that much about and then this all goes away. The point is that it was completely criminal for all of these governments to lock down. They had no authority to derive the right to lock down a state from. And yet you, instead of anyone at CNN thinking, hey, if we have Andrew Cuomo on here every single night, maybe someone should ask him that question. They went, no, give him a cushy interview with his brother. Like, you don't find that incredibly corrupt?
No, and here's why.
Of course he doesn't. Of course he doesn't. Let's see.
Let me ask you this. Right. Do you think lockdowns worked? Did they cause more harm than good? By the way, there was no good that was caused, but do you think they caused more harm than good?
The correct answer is you can... Look, again... I wish these things were that simple. Okay. I can argue yes, I can argue no. The government will say yes.
No, but I'm asking you.
The people who are in charge of Robert Redfield will say yes.
Do you think that lockdowns mitigated the virus and were not offset by the catastrophic harm that lockdowns caused?
That's a different question. And that's hard to know. It caused so much pain in this country that it's hard to say. How do you value what they believe was saved in terms of lives?
Go look at the Johns Hopkins study on lockdowns. They looked at all the lockdown areas versus the areas that didn't lock down. They found no difference in mitigating the virus. It was just the disaster. And I was against the lockdowns from the very beginning. I was against the ridiculous outdoor mask wearing. I was against all of the mandates, all of people being deemed non-essential, all of this stuff.
I get it. But it wasn't just America. You make it sound like, you know...
I'm against it everywhere.
But what I'm saying is, but it matters that it happened everywhere.
And man, I mean, you look at, Pat brought up the number of small businesses that were ruined during the lockdowns. That's the least of it. And that's huge. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But you're talking about suicides, families breaking up, children falling behind, just things that people will never, and not just that, but also just, look, here's the thing, right? And this is what I think the media class never really grapples with. If I were to ask you, what was the cost of the war in Iraq? Okay? What was the cost of it? Now, you might try to find what you go, okay, we spent $2 trillion on the war in Iraq. Okay, there were 1 million Iraqis died as a result of that war. Over 10 million were displaced. You could look at the thousands of America's bravest young boys who killed themselves, tens of thousands, if you want to count the ones who blew their brains out in the aftermath of it, okay? But then you know what the cost of it was? Everything that we're living through today in our country. Donald Trump being president, the lack of trust in the corporate media, the culture war, everyone being pitted. Like, these things have costs for your society down the road that are impossible to measure. And the costs of the lockdowns, it's going to be another 15, 20 years before we look back and really recognize it. By the way, one of the costs of the lockdowns was the Summer of Love. The riots that caused billions of dollars in property damage across you remember the fiery but peaceful riots of 2020?
Yeah, I was in them.
There was, they were, that was a cost of it. I mean, those riots didn't just come out, it wasn't just a coincidence that they came on the heels of 3 months of lockdowns. Anyway, I'm just saying that,
Look, I'm just telling you, the people that I talked to who made these decisions, stand by them. And say,
I believe that.
But look, but here's the thing, and again, if
I'm sure Dick Cheney stands by the war in Iraq too.
Good reply.
My criticism would be that your interest is about how it generates attention, and that's fine, but it won't fix. I'm telling you right now, if God forbid something happened again, we would be lost about how to do it differently, and you'd have a pocket of people, 25, 35%, who say, I'm not going to do it. And you would lose that case again.
You know, it's really wild, Chris, for you to psychoanalyze me and say my interest here is in generating attention. You're the guy who, when at CNN, said everything to defend the vaccine when you were being sponsored by Big Pharma. And all of a sudden now that you're here on PBB show, you'll say the truth. No, but for
I'm
you
not
to
sponsored by Big Pharma.
No.
I'm not against the vaccine.
Hold on. You're not even listening to what I'm saying. You're attacking my motive, saying all I care about is generating interest. Meanwhile, when those CNN checks were coming in, you said nothing that would have put them in jeopardy. But now that you're here, you're starting to tell a little bit of the truth.
So hold on. No. It's not. That's not true. I don't have a changed opinion about the vaccine.
Chris, go look at the montages of what you were saying then to what you're saying now. And you don't have a changed opinion.
Absolutely not. And when Pat put out this clip, that Pat would.
And this is what we live. This is what we live day after day after day after day. Nothing gets resolved. And I'm not talking about just, Chris and Chris here. I'm talking about just ordinary people. We can't seem to resolve anything. We just fight and then disband. Relationship over. Can we ever exercise any kind of maturity where we can actually, just resolve some problems? Oh, Dave. I'm sorry. I thought his name was Chris. Dave Smith and Chris Cuomo. It's, sad. But it's what we do, right? It's what we do. So, I'm going to link below. This is a video that I was listening to. This man is 55 plus. He got fired, and at 55 plus is having great difficulty finding a job. I'm just going to play, a few minutes.
First of all, when they laid me off in December. So that's a terrible time to be laid off for a job. So for the first few months, like from December to March, basically, I hardly had any feedback on my resumes that I sent out. People weren't hiring at all. They don't really hire at that time of year. It was only in March really that things started to pick up, and then I had some bad luck on interviews. There were jobs that I thought that I was going to get, and basically they told me I had, and I didn't get them, and I still don't understand why. But now I'm in the situation of being 55 years old and not having a job, and right when people were about ready to retire, and so all I want to do is find a job that I can work at until I'm like 67 and then retire. But I don't know when that's going to happen. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very depressed now. So this was 9 days ago. He did, I'll just post the link to his channel. He's posted more videos on not being able to find a job. I don't think a lot of people understand that there are no jobs out there. There are no jobs. And the few that still exist, they're not going to be hiring. They won't be hiring older people. They'll be hiring younger people. What's he going to do? Where's the income coming from? We are seriously F-U-C-K-E-D. In fact, here, Jeremiah, babe, America is in effing trouble. U.S. food prices to soar. And exactly right. We are so screwed. And it's happening already. You know, those who are still comfortable, you still, you know, ask, well, when is shit going to hit the fan? Shit's been hitting the fan every single day. It just hasn't caught up to you yet. And here, you know, I like sometimes to just listen to ordinary people talk about their experiences. How did basic housing become so unaffordable? And I'm going to play, well, it's a 10-minute video, is it? Yeah. I'll play just a few minutes of this. I will link below to it. John Wesley Hardin. And I think he's in his early 30s now. But he had to move back with his parents. This is what's happening to the younger generation.
In 2015, I rented a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with friends for $625 a month. It may have been a little bit more than that, but if my memory serves me well, it was definitely under $700 per month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom standalone home with a small backyard and a front yard area and a place to park off of the road. It was small, it was humble, but it was very affordable. And me and my friend were serving tables at the time to pay rent at this place. And it was cheap even back then on low wages. A server where I live gets paid less than $3 per hour. So we were relying on tip money and we were doing pretty well. We had a nice place. We had friends come over. We had parties. People were still interested in social groups in 2015. People still wanted to hang out in person. It was a better time. It wasn't perfect. No time is perfect, but it was fun. We had a good time. We were young, early 20s when we were doing this. Now, I can barely imagine people in their early 20s being able to afford rent for an entire house, much less an apartment at this point. You have 1-bedroom apartments in many places that cost over $1,000 per month. And in cities and towns where the rent is lower, typically the wages are much lower. I was living in Arkansas for a while, and most jobs were paying the minimum wage, which in Arkansas is $11 per hour. If you were lucky, you could find something for $13 per hour. And there was a handful of places to where if you were willing to work 12-hour shifts and just take a really crappy job, you could make $15 to $20 per hour. I worked the night shift at Walmart, making $15.50 in Arkansas. And I was looking at some trailers in a dumpy trailer park, and one trailer was $745 per month for 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. It was in okay shape. The pictures online looked way better than the actual trailer looked when I went to go check it out. You could touch the ceiling without fully extending your arm, and it just wasn't very glamorous. Definitely not worth $745 per month on what I was making at Walmart at the time. Because you know how Walmart is. Unless you're in management or you're a very faithful slave, they don't really let you get full-time hours. You usually have to work 35 to 39 hours. And I was so sick of the job, I just told them I wanted to work 4 days a week. I didn't even want to work full-time because Walmart conditions are pretty rough. There are jobs that are way worse, but the management was bad. They were following me around everywhere and making sure I was getting my work done on time. You had to work fast. You couldn't just take your time. Even though there was nobody in the store, I was stocking shelves overnight. And what they want you to do is have all of your items stocked before the customers start coming in the morning. So that wasn't a lot of fun. And I definitely didn't want to stick to that job just to live in a rickety old trailer for who knows how long, for $745 per month, which was a little less than one paycheck. And then my other paycheck for that month would have gone to car insurance, utilities, food. I guess I could have saved a little bit, or at least had some form of spending money, but I would have had to live in squalor. I would have kept it clean and made it as spacious as I could, but there's only so much you could do with a small trailer. And the neighbors were maybe 10 to 15 feet apart. It was a packed trailer park, so no telling what kind of neighbors I would have gotten. They told me that a lot of people who applied there had issues with the background checks, so what that tells me is a lot of people who try to move in there have a checkered past, which for me personally is okay, but also I don't really love the idea of somebody potentially trying to break in on me or fight me after I pull up from a long shift at work, because poor people are prone to crime. I believe we all know this by now, because when you don't have much to lose, you're just willing to act more erratically and violently, and some could say that's justified, because being poor is terrible. It makes you mad at the world. I can definitely see where some of these people are coming from. I don't think it justifies bad behavior, but yeah, crime comes from poverty. I think most of us can agree on that.
I disagree. We've got an awful lot of crime going on. Government officials and Wall Streeters and, people who commit crime and fraud and all of that kind of. Maybe he's talking about the violent, getting into physical fights or whatever. But no. And you can't say that it's poor people, because an awful lot of people got rich and they continue to commit crimes that are enriching themselves every single day. So, but he also talked, did he in this talk about the roommate situation and even friends and, getting a roommate that you don't know. And it's getting to the point where and I've heard it from other people that no, you don't go there anymore. So an awful lot of the young are ending up back with their parents, and fortunately they have parents that will open the door for them. But we've got to change our psyche here, because families really do need to buckle down and help one another and come together. And, outside of that, if parents close the doors and say, oh, well, you're not looking hard enough for a job, or doing all of that crap, then I'm sorry. They just don't love or care about their children. A whole lot I've noticed, and speaking to subscribers over the years, parents who are willfully ignorant, believing that the economy is just swell, and then will, judge their own children for not having a job well, you're just lazy, you're just this, you're not looking hard enough, there are so many jobs out there, the economy is doing well. I'm sorry. Something's wrong with those parents. So I'll post the link again. And yeah. So this was sent to me by a subscriber this was years ago, and I've played this many times, but it's worth listening to again. Replay.
Think about it in your head. How bad do things have to get before you do something? Do they have to take away all your property? Do they have to license every activity that you want to engage in? Do they have to be throwing you on cattle cars before you start to say, now wait a minute, I don't think this is a good idea? How long is it going to be before you finally resist and say, no, I will not comply? Period. That's a different answer for each person. Ask yourself now, because sooner or later you're going to come to that line, and when they cross it, what do you say? Well, okay, cross this line. Okay, now cross that line. Okay, now cross this line. And pretty soon you're in a corner. Sooner or later, you got to draw a line and stand your ground, whether anybody else does or not. That is what liberty is all about.
Yeah. When are we going to stand up? Oh, right. 6-week-old child dies after attack from family dog. And I was listening to this and I just thought they don't want anyone to have any pets anymore. And here are the parents interviewed, and you gotta wonder, I gotta wonder about this one.
Delivers us some pretty tragic news after they say their 6-week-old son has died after an attack by the family dog. Our Sam Luther joins us now. Sam, this is a story we know many have been.
So obviously for 6 weeks, the dog never showed any kind of aggression, but then that one day and boom, I will say electromagnetic frequencies can produce this kind of behavior in dogs, but I just feel she says one thing here that really makes me suspect.
Following for a few days now.
Yeah, well, the family sharing updates now for almost a week. Just before we were set to speak with them today around 3 o'clock, they got word that 6-week-old Ezra had died. Tonight, they're hoping other families in East Tennessee are able to take something away from this tragic story.
Being his mom was the biggest honor and the best thing I have ever done.
6-week-old Ezra made Chloe and Mark Mansour first-time parents. It's what they've always wanted. They loved and cared for their son every day. With 2 dogs in the house, with no history of aggression, they never imagined there would be a fear for their child's safety. While Ezra was taking a nap in his crib, the family's husky that they owned for 8 years out of nowhere attacked.
And to just bring awareness that it can be any dog at any time, completely unprovoked, no matter what the history is.
In the midst of...
I'm sorry, yeah, that's what she says. Okay. And a whole lot of people will listen to this and then get scared because they have young children in the house, and then they'll get rid of their dogs. Baby shower attendees kill man after fender bender. Really?
2 minors. Police say the victims were involved in a fender bender May 19th in southeast Dallas. They say the suspects then cut them off, trapped them, and fired shots at the truck. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager live in Dallas with this story. Peyton.
Heather, in Dallas, police tell us that this deadly shooting took place in the middle of the street in the daylight outside of a home where a baby shower was taking place. So there were several witnesses and they helped investigators identify the suspects. Also, detectives had multiple pieces of surveillance video from neighbors.
Crime scene tape near CF Hahn Freeway and Elam Road marks the spot where police say a group attending a baby shower opened fire on a vehicle passing by, killing 33-year-old Jose Granados Cerritos and injuring a 12-year-old. This short clip of surveillance video from a neighbor shows the moments before the shooting on Sunday, May 19th. A father and his young son are playing in the front yard when multiple people from the house next door walk into the street. It appears one is holding a black handgun. We've blurred the faces of the two suspects because they're juveniles. Police announced Wednesday 4 adults were charged with murder. The 2 juveniles are also facing murder.
Got a lot of stuff going on in Texas. The gun state. Yeah. All right. I just need to say that, you know, with the talk of, even though it is now the euthanasia in Canada, well, you can talk about that, but YouTube has their guidelines, so please respect those guidelines when you're talking about a particular subject. Okay? That's what I ask. Okay. So, it seems that murder-suicides, that's the topic I'm talking about, are really increasing.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Well, neighbors told deputies that they heard a gunshot come from the house on Saturday, and that was also the last time any family members or friends heard from or saw this couple. I want to show you some video overnight, show you exactly where it happened. Deputies came to this house on Fox Chase Court around 8:45 p.m. to check on this couple and found them dead. Multiple gunshot wounds to both the man and the woman. Investigators tell us it's not clear who shot who, but authorities say it does appear to be a murder-suicide. Now, we're told more than one weapon was found in the house, but information about who this couple is just hasn't been released. We don't have their names, their ages, what they did for a living, if they had children. So all questions, of course, we'll be asking authorities today that could give us a little more information and insight into what happened here. Of course, we'll keep you posted.
I'm sure you will. Here, in the past 48 hours, that was 2 weeks ago, and that was in northwest Harris County, which is the Houston area. Okay, 4 dead after 2 murder-suicides in Houston area over the past 48 hours. What's going on? Well, you have an awful lot of these frequencies taking place with your severe weather, and I'm sure that those electromagnetic frequencies involved in the severe weather are making people mentally not right, physically not right, causing an awful lot of stress in people. I'm not saying that that was the cause, but what's going on?
4 people are dead tonight after 2 murder-suicides in our region in the past 48 hours. The first happening in Spring on Thursday. A mother was shot and killed by a man police say she was dating. And today, another man shot and killed a woman in Independence Heights before taking his own life. These situations are some of the most extreme cases of domestic violence. And tonight, KPRC2's Gage Golding is having an open conversation with domestic violence advocates, sharing the avenues to get help before things progress too far.
2 murder-suicides in the last 48 hours right here in our city. What does that tell you about what's going on in our community?
It tells me that
people are not, the information is not getting out.
Domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It can impact anybody of any walk of life.
Absolutely. It can impact doctors, lawyers, teachers, teenagers, everybody.
Who can they call? What can they do? I know they might feel alone, but what can they do? They're not alone.
They're not alone. There's several organizations they can call. One in particular is Fresh Spirit. They can always call us. We will help them come up with a safety plan of getting out. They can even text the domestic violence hotline, which is 88788. 911 operators are trained to take calls for individuals in a domestic violence situation. All they have to do is dial 911 and tell the operator they would like to order a pizza. The operator immediately starts asking questions like, how many pizzas do you want? 1 or 2. That lets them know how many people are in the house. The abuser will usually stop and allow you to order food.
What can they look out for? Are there some telltale signs that, hey, there might be an issue happening here?
Yes, sometimes it's very subtle. It is controlling what you wear, controlling who you talk to, controlling what you eat even.
Not all domestic violence is about a relationship, though, right?
Correct. Domestic violence is anyone living in the same house. It can be a domestic violence against partners. It can be domestic violence against a mother against a child, an adult child.
What would you say to anybody that is looking for help, that needs that help?
Make the call. Make the call. Call Fresh Spirit. We will guide you through getting out. That first step is hard to do.
Don't laugh, Rod. A lot of women who are in a domestic violence situation call 911 and order pizza. And some have had their life actually saved. So that's not something to laugh at. Yeah, here. 4 dead after 2 murder-suicides. Okay, so... Oh, I can't go there. This woman posted a $30 table on Facebook Marketplace, and she almost lost thousands. Be careful of what's going on when you're trying to sell or buy things in the cyber world. There's an awful lot of people who are now taking advantage of a whole lot of elderly, I will say. But they have ways that they can get into your bank accounts and drain them. I wish we could go back to the days prior to this internet, this cyber world, but this is what we got.
The side table for $30 on Facebook Marketplace. What happened then?
Almost immediately, before I even had my finger off the posting thing, I got a text back from the person, and he said, I'm very interested. And I said, would you like to see it? He replied, no, I'm out of town. I won't be able to pick it up until Wednesday, but I'm happy to give you an Interac transfer if you'll hold it for me.
Okay, and then what happened after that?
And so I said, okay, because I've accepted Interac transfers before with no issues. And I gave him my email to send it through, which I immediately got a reply that said, there's an Interac transfer for you from this person in the amount of $30.
And so you clicked through?
So I clicked through, and it went into another screen that shows you all the banking places that you can pick. And so I picked my bank and went into that account and signed in and went to deposit it. But there was a little, like a little circle circling around all the time. It kept saying, do not refresh this page. This may take a few minutes. In retrospect, I was thinking afterwards, a few minutes while I take all your money.
Oh, no. And is that what happened?
And that's what happened. And so he was you're allowed, apparently, I find out now, through Interact transfers to take $3,000 a day from your account to pay on an Interact. And so this person was obviously aware of that, I have 3 accounts, and tried to take $1,000 from each account. This bank that I chose is one that I don't use very often, and I chose to pick that bank rather than my usual bank for that reason. Probably, it's always in the back of my mind. I try to be aware of things that might happen, but I wasn't really expecting this. And so it went into overdraft. The bank had released the money, but then the bank was aware something was going on too. And I clicked out. I thought, this something's not right. This is taking too long. And I saw an email from my bank that said, sign in immediately and change your password.
That quickly?
That quickly. So I did that. And then I hung up and I called the number from the back of my debit card. And they advised me that there was activity on my account that was suspicious and that they'd locked my account and that I had to go to the bank in person to unlock it.
And so when you went to the bank, did you explain the whole situation to them?
Yes, I did. And they said it was very common. They said this happens. You're very lucky that you clicked out as quick as you did, that we caught it and that we pulled the money back. Because if you hadn't been aware, like each day, you've given this person all your access now, so he can go in and change and take out money and go in tomorrow and take out another $3,000 from you. So if you aren't checking your account every day, this could happen to you. So it just makes you shake. You just think, wow, how easy it is for them to scam you like that.
And it is. And apparently people are very successful at it. Why is step incest porn so insanely popular right now? Well, let's just say demoralization has taken place, and we are so out of control in our country. It is horrifying to see this. Horrifying. Yeah. And how about this radical trans LGBTQ activist who pushed for safe spaces for LGBTQ people, just charged for killing his husband with a samurai sword. And you can't make this up.
For the last 3 years, we've had what we call an access tent, which is basically a safe space for the LGBT community outside. People with disabilities primarily, but for anybody who suffers from stress, mental health issues, they can come and bang, it's a safe space. If people have incidents applied, they can come and report them at our safe space. And how are you funded? Are you totally independent or are you beholden? For the last 3 years, we've had what we call an access tent, which is basically a safe space for the LGBT community outside.
Oh my God. How about mind games? China's mind control weapons. How China's shadowy brain warfare unit is preparing for war with new mind melting weapons to paralyze enemies. Like the US doesn't have that? Yeah. Let's see if this will play.
Cognitive weapons, as used by the Chinese Communist Party, it's not just about telling stories or giving out facts that they want to put out. It's about trying to shape the way you think about an issue. There is some evidence that the various Chinese entities do experiment and are developing these sorts of weapons that you're talking about. And so they're weapons that essentially degrade the natural capability of the minds or the cognitive processes of particular targets. It's the fundamental philosophy of trying to win without fighting. It's trying to either weaken or shape the minds and the cognitive processes of the target such that they either bend to the will of the Chinese, either because of some cognitive decline or because of some cognitive framework that has been imposed onto them. In terms of the biological weapons, I don't have specific evidence for that, but there is some credible evidence that it is something that the Chinese are interested in. It is something that the People's Liberation Army are interested in. And it's essentially to achieve, well, it's part of the same strategy, and that is to defeat the enemy's or mind or subjugate the enemy's mind before the actual conflict or disagreement takes place. It's explicit to Chinese strategy that secrecy is a big part of it, that intransparency is a big part of it. What I would say is that the sorts of ethical constraints that many of, particularly the advanced liberal democracies have placed on themselves, the Chinese don't hold themselves to. You know.
Really? The U.S. had technology very similar to this. They used it in the first Iraq war against the Iraqi soldiers. And we talk about mind-melting or mind-bending technology. They had this technology where they literally, the Iraqi soldiers literally laid down their guns. There were like thousands of them. Laid down their guns. They have this technology, US, Russia, China, other countries, and you know, a whole lot of people look at this and think, oh my God, wow. No, they've been using this. They use these technologies against their own citizens. Oh, against Americans. That's right. Why do we have so many flipping crazy people who you would think would be acting with behavior that is considered to be moral and mature? We don't have that anymore. A whole lot of people, I do believe, are under mind control, and it's causing an awful lot of conflict between people. And if anybody wants to read this article, I'll post the link in the chat. It's not new technology. It's not just China. Yeah, transparency and, oh, well, you don't have that in China. Like we have it here. Drain the people and profits in the corruption case exposed in Houston.
One-page statement from the Texas Ranger who investigated this case lays it all out in great detail. Patrice Lee was the manager tasked with finding contractors to repair and inspect broken water lines all over Houston. He wrote that Lee lied to OIG investigators, stating that her brother was Andrew Tabari Thomas, not Andrew Travis Thomas, this guy whose door we knocked on last year. But then when she met with HR to appeal her termination from the city, she admitted this is her brother, who she awarded the $4.5 million contract. Here are the parts to the scheme laid out by the investigator. Lee persuaded legitimate city contractors to hire her company for consulting in order to reroute City of Houston funds to herself. But there's no actual evidence she did anything. Court records say her consulting services were nothing more than a kickback, with the express or implied promise of getting more and or better work from the city in the future. Phase 2 of the scheme is where Lee awarded funds to businesses with little experience or qualifications, provided they pay her a sizable portion of the funds. Investigators say they found more than $322,000 in payments to Lee's personal bank accounts from 4 contractors she hired to repair and inspect water lines. And then phase 3 was when Lee recommended Lew's construction and inspection for an emergency purchase order without disclosing it was her company. Lew's was paid $406,000 from the city of Houston. Instead of using most of that to pay employees who may have done repair work, court records show Lee moved $380,000, depositing it directly to another business account in her name. A total of about $750,000 on top of the nearly $100,000 salary she collected from the city each year. And at the end of the day, I think taxpayers want to know, is there any chance they'll get this money back?
So unfortunately, in public corruption cases, what we see are that thieves don't save money. It'll be difficult for the public to get restitution in this case for money stolen. However, jail time is the punishment for a felony conviction, and nobody wants to go to jail. In these cases, prison time would be an option.
Lee, her brother, Andrew Thomas, and the city contractor, Danielle Hertz, are all facing 5 to 99 years in prison. The business owners accused of paying the bribes could get 2 to 20 years if convicted. I'm Amy Davis, KPRC 2 News.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
It's not just poor people who commit crime. Ohio Village. Wow, this is amazing. So an awful lot of people want to get out of the cities. They want to go rural. They want to, just have a normal life. A whole lot of very small towns all over the country have very corrupt town councils, local government, and it's what the hell? You got to wonder. Okay. Well, Derek, you have been going this long for about 1.5 years. I mean, you were talking about this in the live many, many times before. So if you can't do it because you're not in a place in Canada where you can do it, then what's going on here in the chat?
To find out what's really going on. A couple miles away from Oxford, nestled against the Indiana border, is the tiny village of College Corner, Ohio. You might think nothing happens here.
Running for mayor was never on my agenda.
Molly Kaysen says she was uncomfortable with what was happening inside this tiny building, the village government office, so she ran for mayor last November and won. And in the 4 months she's been in office, the mayor can't unlock the door to the village office. So when you say locked out, do you mean literally locked out?
Literally locked out.
Now, is it normal for the mayor not to have access to this place?
I wouldn't think so.
The mayor does not have a key to the building.
No.
Well, that's a little nuts.
Randy Freaking, a retired attorney, was shocked at this news. He worked as a village attorney and specialized in employment law. Kaysen and 2 new council members have other big concerns in tiny College Corner. With fewer than 400 residents, the village only has 1 full-time employee, the fiscal officer, Jennifer Woods. And this is the village administrator, Mike Sims. He's a volunteer and Jennifer Woods' dad. Does that set off alarm bells to you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like they're the only 2 that have the power to everything. So they're the only 2 that have access to the bank accounts. They're the only 2 that can speak to the contractors. They're the only ones that can talk to the attorney. What is the need for just the 2 of them to have all the power?
That power was cemented just a couple of days before the new mayor and council members were sworn in. A special meeting was called, which made Woods and Sims the only 2 with the power to effectively do anything in the village.
They made sure nobody had access to the village attorney except father, daughter, fiscal officer, and administrator. Why? What are you hiding? What don't you want the council members that should have access to that attorney to know?
I mean, we have called and called and called and called.
The mayor claims she asked for financial records and wasn't given them until Butler County prosecutor Mike Moser made a call for her. So it took a prosecutor getting involved
in order to get the records, yes.
That's insane. All of these things are public records. So certainly the council members should be entitled to see all of these things. The mayor, the council members ought to have access to the records, ought to have access to the office. Somebody has to do oversight. So, I mean, why in the world would you make that the rule? Unless you're trying to hide something.
There was another special meeting held days before the new members were sworn in to approve an employment contract for the fiscal officer, Jennifer Woods. The contract lists her pay at more than $72,000 a year, gives her 30 days of vacation and 120 sick days, 15 more next year. And she's not required to hold any office hours.
In 38 years of practicing employment law, I never saw a contract with 120 sick days per year, paid. sick days.
This is a very generous.
It's a very generous contract.
If she wanted to, she would not have to work any more than 9,800 days.
I believe that's the correct calculation.
I'm curious as to why you had to hold a December 29th meeting to change how the village is run.
So I went to the village meeting to try to talk to the village administrator.
And as a village administrator, sir, can you tell me why the mayor doesn't have access to this building?
The fiscal officer.
You have a wonderful, when I say wonderful, wonderful employment agreement. Could we talk about that, please? May I speak with you?
And any council members about these issues.
Are you comfortable with the fact that this village office isn't open?
I tried multiple times to talk to every council member, Mike Sims and Jennifer Woods, to no avail, leaving me and the newest elected members of this little village's council asking more and more questions.
I hope that there is nothing going on. I hope that everything's right. But from the looks of it, it doesn't look that way.
I went back to College Corner for its monthly meeting this morning, and I want you to see what happened.
5 months in.
In front of a packed house for the meeting, much different than last month's meeting where it was empty, the village administrator finally handed over the keys to the building. A big win for the mayor, Molly Kaysen.
I think we've made a lot of steps forward today. It seems like this journey's been 2 steps forward and 3 steps back this whole time, but I think today we finally took 2 giant steps forward and we're not moving back at this point.
That key is just to the building, not the office where the records are kept. Among the people at the meeting today were State Representative Rodney Creech and Preble County Auditor LaVon Wright. Their curiosity piqued by the lack of transparency by the village administrator and the fiscal officer.
The community is watching. We're watching. Everybody's watching. You guys are doing a good job. I've been watching, the media coverage. We need to uncover this. I don't know.
Unbelievable how many control freaks that we have, and the mayor can't even get into the office building. Wow. Father and daughter team. They want to control. They want control of this corner. Yay. I'm big and tough. New Jersey is trying to stop this grandma from asking questions of her tyrannical government.
Too many public records requests. So they call it harassing. They want to sue people who harass the government by asking for information. Now, the bill sponsor said this bill is only meant for bad actors who abuse the system by harassing the government, asking for transparency. Now, I'm going to show you the face of the biggest bad actor in New Jersey who was, in fact, sued for asking too many questions of her government. In Irvington, New Jersey, this lady is a big problem, they say. The government did sue her. You're looking at 83-year-old Eloise McDaniel. The city of Irvington, New Jersey, sued her for making over 75 public records requests in 3 years. She's a retired school teacher, and she is very interested in keeping her government honest, and they did not like that. So they sued her after her, she's retired. She had a 31-year career in education. She was doing citizen journalism. Now, the mayor later said, well, I didn't actually ask to sue her. Maybe it was someone else. Who sued her? We don't really know. But she did, in fact, get sued because the city said that they were tired of responding to her, quote, voluminous OPRA requests that had been unduly burdensome, time-consuming, and expensive. Here's what...
And you don't get to sue the residents because you're just tired of it. Wow, man, we're in deep trouble. Yeah, America is in effing trouble. So, it's 10 to 7, and I have another window on wars, on all of the military-industrial complex engaging in war and NATO and Israel and Ukraine and Russia and China, and I guess we can't get anything stopped. But really, that's all we are here. There is no government. It's just war. The military-industrial complex has a government that they control, and we're their subject. I guess that'll be for tomorrow. You guys, bring your best self and live honestly and speak honestly. Help those in need. Be safe. Awareness, awareness, awareness of your surroundings. A whole lot is going on, and we need to change to just try to keep up with it, keep ourselves safe, keep others safe, and to help those in need. So on that note, thank you for showing up. I do hope to see you tomorrow night. And good night and good luck. Ciao, guys.